Great Lakes Racing Truck Series rolls into the world capital of motorsports as drivers vie for the opportunity at the ultimate sign of victory, the kissing of the Yard of Bricks. Good evening, everybody, and welcome here to Split Second Broadcasting's coverage of the 11th season of this truck series. Race number 7 on tap, the run of the Gainbridge 200 at the Brickyard. We're on a spree of really big racetracks, the historic 2.5-mile oval ready to play its part in this season. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Russ Brockman. And Russ, there seems to be an atmosphere when you come to a track like Indianapolis. It's home to one of the crown jewel races. It always seems to be a venue that everyone has at the top of their list that they want to take a checkered flag at.
Yeah, for sure. I think I was looking at some of my notes with some of the drivers, just getting their feedback on the schedule earlier in the season, and it was Evan Snyder that said, "I'm just excited to go to Indy. Not particularly because of the racing, the style of racing. I think it's just Indy, right? So the excitement for these drivers to be able to go race on a big track like this. The Truck Series notorious for maybe running at IRP, but it's really awesome to see the high speed, high draft Indy on our schedule as it sometimes always is in the Great Lakes Truck Series.
Absolutely. Going to be a lot of fun to see what these drivers are able to do for 80 circuits here this afternoon as we take you through your starting lineup. And 7th race, we have a 7th different pole sitter. Nathan Jump going to start on the inside of the front row for the very first time. And the points leader, Matthew Weeks, will line up to his outside.
Row 2, we have the 24 of Tony Mangi, one of those drivers that was fast last week. And then alongside him is the number 1 of Jared Darling.
One more on the seat, Christian Peterson, 1 point back from the points lead, makes up the inside of row 3. Alongside of Hunter Madalinas, coming off 2 races where he finished outside the top 25, looking to bounce back today.
Starting 7th, the 30 of Daniel Nanny, going for 3 in a row. We'll see if he can do that tonight. Alongside him is the 92 of Michael Senzi.
Zachary Henry going to be on the inside of row number 5, I should say, in the 9th position. And completing the top 10, Jackson Sims.
Starting 11th, the 37 of Elliot Henderson. And starting 12th, our Daytona winner, Spencer Owens.
Matthew Durr going to roll up on the inside of row number 7 in the 13th spot. John Barry suffered a DNF last week, but he's got good starting track position in 14th.
Starting 15th, the 93 of Evan Snyder. And starting 16th, the 40 of Nicholas Kressel.
Good to see Gavin Fitzgerald back in the field here tonight. That number 14 will roll off 17th alongside of him, Hunter Brittle in the 10.
Rounding off our top 20 starters, starting 19th is the 26 of Ashton Lawson, and starting 20th, the 98 of Robin Durr.
Brent Kincott going to roll off on the inside of row number 11, deep in the field, where we find the 49 of Shane Neiswanger in 22nd.
Starting 23rd is the 53 of Jared Duda, and starting 24th, the 00 of Aiden DuPont.
Eric Kev back in the field here tonight. He is indeed behind the wheel of the 63 as he'll roll off from the 25th position. Justin Mons will start to his outside in 26th in the 41 truck.
Starting in 27th is William Barbagelata, a past winner here at Indianapolis. It'll be exciting to watch him drive his way through the field. And then starting next to him is the 28, starting 28th, James Shiflett.
30 trucks here tonight. Final row going to be made up of the 4 of Rod Fastnow and the 64 of Blair Neabone. You mentioned about William Barbagelata. We haven't seen him for a couple of weeks. A former winner here, and 3-time winner Elliot Henderson. Are those some of the favorites we look at here in preparation for this race based on the fact they've been to victory lane? They've done it here at this venue, or do we kind of look at some of these other guys that have been just on the precipice of a victory, maybe be able to close the deal out today?
Yeah, I think, Elliott starting back in 11th, his 3 wins, actually, I looked at it's 3 in a row. So had a little bit of a stranglehold on this place a handful of years ago here in the Great Lakes Truck Series. I'm really interested if we see you mentioned our pole sitter, Nathan Jump, kind of been a quiet start to the season, a past champion in this league. So really excited to see what he can bring tonight. But you see Weeks is up there, Manji. I think there's a lot of drivers that are going to be contending for the win tonight. I'm always looking forward to see who prevails. I also see Jared Darling's up there. Of course, our fast drivers, some championship favorites, and Peterson, Madalinas, they're all starting up there. And then I mentioned Daniel Nanny, 3 in a row. If he can do it tonight, we'll see if that's the case.
And Daniel Nanny coming off his second victory straight. That was last week at Michigan, a wide 2-mile racetrack. It's a little narrower here, but a little longer of a racetrack at Indianapolis. We'll see how they're going to maneuver their way through these final couple of corners as we're getting ready to go racing here tonight. The Gainbridge 200 at the Brickyard is green. Only 9 degrees of banking for these drivers into the corners. Little short straightaways here from 1 to 2 and then over from 3 to 4 to set up a pass onto the back straightaway or the front straightaway, depending on where you get that momentum. It looks like top 2 on that inside line going to get clear. Now we'll be side by side between the 2 that are separated by only 1 point for the overall points lead, the 71 of Peterson and the 56 of Matthew Weeks.
I wonder how that, especially being bunched up here, kind of being on the outside, you probably get a little bit more momentum. Entering the corners here, you know, obviously the inside is the place to be, but you don't really have much opportunity on those short straightaways to make a move. It looks like Peterson gonna move past Darling here. Nanny's gonna try to slide into 5th here as well.
Jump, kind of IndyCarring it down the front straightaway, moving out of line, not allowing the 24 of Tony Manji to get any draft, be able to generate any kind of a run through that slipstream going into turn 1.
It's the draft's definitely a big factor here. It's just a matter of where you can put it. You know, obviously last week in Michigan we saw the draft and being able to kind of push each other and you know, pull up behind somebody a lot easier. But you have the momentum in the straightaways. You have to slow down in these corners so much. As Manji got a run on jump here, going to look to the inside, entering 3.
A shallow entry there for Tony Manji, but it looks like he's able to have a nice rotation through the center of that 3rd corner. Clears before we even get out of the short chute for turn 4.
I think that we've seen Nathan Jump have these moments of, you know, just kind of taking it easy and let's just race, but then other times where he's up on the wheel, and here he's I think he's kind of like, okay, you want to race here, Manji, let's go for it.
That right rear quarter panel down the front straightaway, trying to stay on that door. Ooh, that's where it gets really tight off of these corners, specifically off of 1 and off of 3. I mentioned how the track narrows up. We can run double wide here from the entrance to the center of the corner, but then we get off of the turn. That truck on the inside line wants to push up. Guess what? If you're that outside line truck, there's nothing between you and the outside wall.
It's a scary place to be on that outside. You're like, oh man. I think Jump here maybe. I really like he runs even higher than you probably expect, just giving yourself some room, and it gives you a better chance to maybe get some momentum off the corner. You'll see again, has a little momentum on Manji. Ooh, even a little bump there as Peterson's gonna make this a 3-truck battle for the lead.
Peterson gonna now use that draft drop alongside a Nathan Jump for 2nd. That may allow Manji to be free and clear for the top position on both lanes. Jump gonna swing around the outside. He'll keep 2nd. Peterson will drift back to 3rd. Here comes Daniel Nanny in that 30. Part-time schedule this season, but coming off 2 wins in a row, up here in the conversation for 3. And that'd be 3 wins on 3 different configurations in a way. A road course, a 2-mile speedway, and a 2.5-mile speedway.
Yeah, very diverse driver, able to really perform anywhere, any of these tracks, and that's yeah, it'll be exciting to see if he can make it 3 in a row tonight, and kind of fun for him to be racing against a lot of guys that are maybe considering points, thinking about points when they're racing, and he's here just like going for the win.
See him snaking down the front straightaway here, pretty much single file all the way back through the field. Looks like at least visually here, pretty good downforce in these trucks, pretty good handling for them through these corners. I did notice in practice a couple of drivers getting snappy loose off of the corner. A couple of them right back there you saw actually doing the same thing. I believe that was around the John Berry area, 13th on back. And that's something I was kind of wondering here. We talk about the fact there's not a whole lot of banking to lean into here when you go into these corners. A little over 9 degrees of banking all the way around this racetrack. The straightaways are completely flat. With the fact that we've got sunny conditions here as well, what's the evolution going to be for the handling of these trucks? Will they continue to stay pretty planted to the ground, or will tire wear start to have these drivers clamoring for grip?
Yeah, I felt, you know, just making some practice laps the night before the race, I thought that it felt like the there was a lot more grip than I expected, but also a lot of fall off after 5 to 10 laps. So there's plenty of tire sets here. So I think that if you get cautions, we'll have a lot of times where I think a lot of people are going to pit, but it's also tough to pass too. And we see a lot of these drivers just somewhat single file now that we've gotten going here. And I think if you have an opportunity to maybe save your tires, save your fuel here, and that's maybe what a lot of these drivers are doing. It opens up strategy for depending on when the cautions fall, or even if we get green flag pit stops. So, I think right now it's just saving your stuff. I think that Indy is known for saving fuel. That's what you have to do. Unfortunately, if you can't make passes, is just try to do something a little different on strategy.
To your point there of the difficulty to pass, I kind of think, as we see right here, a run by Peterson looking to the inside of jump. I think that's why we're seeing this aggressive nature up at the front of the field, realizing, hey, if I've got the momentum, I've got the opportunity, I got to take advantage of it. Otherwise, I'm just going to be riding behind this guy for 10, 15 laps before we end up eventually having the potential varying strategies on pit road.
Yeah, and you saw that, Jump was able to kind of keep Peterson behind him here by just kind of throwing a fake black maybe, and maybe got a yellow. Looks like 27 of William Barbagelata had an issue in 1 and 2.
Gelata, one of our former winners here at this venue, came into this race currently in the 16th position in points. We haven't seen him for a couple of weeks, as mentioned, so he has free fallen through the standings. I believe before we ended up having his disappearance, he was up in a playoff spot, so he's fighting to get back into it, but not off to a great start here in tonight's race at Indianapolis.
And I think we kind of talked about it, like, is this a guy we're going to see drive up through the field? Only up 5 spots, so that shows you passing, and this looks like just maybe a 3 wide situation. Not sure if the 53 of Jared Duda was thinking maybe Barbagelata was giving him the outside to go there, or I'd maybe have to see it again, but it's a tough place to go 2 wide, let alone 3 wide. At least they're on the front stretch, but you got to kind of get that sorted out before you get to turn 1.
Yeah, it looked like Jared Duda was pushing William Barbagelata, kind of 2-truck tandeming down the straightaway there to get that solid straight line speed. But to your point, when he kind of jumped up there to the right rear, might have been some miscommunication there where Barbagelata thought he was clear to come up, then he realizes he's not, and he was also 3 wide as well. He might have been moving up, seeing that 0-0 of Aiden DuPont to his inside, but looked like a little miscommunication there. Unfortunately for Barbagelata, he pays the price with it. Some pretty good contact with the right front into that outside wall.
Yeah, and I don't know, the 53 kind of back and forth a little bit on the steering wheel. I think sometimes you feel like you're saying, maybe a little more planted tonight than a lot of these drivers thought, and then all of a sudden it gets a little switching back and forth, and it doesn't take much. But I'm kind of interested to see. It looks like we're gonna get everybody coming down for pit stops here. I was looking at lap times just in those first 6 or 7 laps, and you're pretty much losing almost a tenth a lap on your tires. So tires gonna be a big thing to go grab them right here, and a lot of sets. We have 5 sets in the pits tonight, so this should be a great opportunity to just come get tires and reset.
So to that point, losing, as you said, over a tenth of a second per lap. And I tell you what, we get closer towards the end of this race, that potential money stop, we're going to be talking a lot, I think, about the undercut. I know that the draft is prevalent here too, so it's going to be kind of a catch-22 if you want to undercut everybody, come off of pit road all by your lonesome, if you want to come down with a group and maybe not gain any track position on your competitors. Wow, how about 3 wide off of pit road? I think Peterson may have just barely gotten it.
Yeah, and this is a narrow pit road and then a narrow access road leaving, so I got to get that sorted out. But yeah, it looks like execution on pit road. It's a weird thing in iRacing. Like, obviously the drivers that do it a lot, you get you find those tiny little moments on pit road to be able to jump another driver, and that's exactly what looks like maybe Peterson was able to do. We'll have to. Wow, look at that!
Whoa,
I don't know who to call that if where they're putting right now. I mean, right now it looks like Peterson is currently. Oh no, they did move Jump in front of Peterson. It looks like so,
I was gonna say,
but
the only
that's
thing I
pretty
could tell
close.
you was that Manji was third off pit road. As far as
Yeah.
who it was for the top two, I have no idea.
And so you were mentioning during those pit stops, and then we saw that great battle off of pit road. The idea of the undercut. I think that the other side to this is like, when we go to Indianapolis, we got Pocono next week. This is those tracks where you can kind of pit like at a road course, and once you're in your fuel window, you can potentially, if you're one of the front runners, pit and still be on the lead lap, which is a great opportunity to then jump in front of everybody. If the caution does come out, it doesn't penalize you like it would at some of these other tracks. So we saw last week at Michigan, a lot of the drivers would pit, and then they'd have to spend the first 5 to 10 laps on that run trying to get back on the lead lap before the other drivers would pit when they were doing the undercut. This here at Indy, if you're one of those top 5, top 10, you can sometimes not have to go a lap down. So that's an interesting thing that I love. Kind of opens up a little bit the ability to make a green flag pit stop and not feel like you're throwing your race away on what could be a possible caution in the middle of a green flag pit stop run.
That's a great point. I think maybe, kind of looking at if we inevitably do have this thing come down to green flag pit stops, the only pitfall area I can see these drivers will really have to deal with is pit road exit. You're able to come off of turn 4, have a straight line entry to the commitment line. Pit road, as we mentioned, it's a little bit narrow. You've got that attenuator wall separating the pit lane from the racetrack itself, so things can get pretty narrow when you have a bunch of drivers on pit road. But if you're coming down with just a few drivers coming down by yourself, not much of an issue. But that flat access road off of turn 1 all the way to turn 2 to exit onto the back straightaway, we've seen a lot of drivers have difficulty with that, especially with new slick tires.
Yeah, and I think you come off of turn 4 and your truck just wants to go right to the wall too. So if you're racing around people trying to get down to pit road, it can be a little tough. The other little thing I noticed, and I messed up when I went out and just did some testing laps tonight, is I like running some of the IndyCar stuff, especially of course at Indianapolis. The speed limit line, of course, is back out on the track for the NASCAR style. So if any of these drivers were running any IndyCar, running some Indy 500 in the month of May, they got to remember that the speed line is a little earlier than what it is in the IndyCar. So that might be something. It bit me in warm-ups. I don't know if it would any of these drivers.
Hopefully they have that information squirreled away for later on if indeed we end up having some green flag pit stops here at Indy. Getting ready for our first restart of the night. Nathan Jump, pole sitter, going to lead us back to green. Christian Peterson to his outside. Then Daniel Nanny, Tony Manji, Hunter Madalinas going to be the top 5.
Yeah, it looked like Peterson kind of just had a little surge moment right before Jump went, and that got Jump the best opportunity to kind of get away, use the outside lane entering 1. But yeah, Christian's doing a great job here getting back to the outside to Jump through 1 and 2.
Trying to stay on that right rear quarter panel, still there off that corner, so he'll have some good straight line speed. Tony Manji up there against the wall, offering a little bit maybe of a bubble push down the back straightaway. There you see the side draft from Jump on the left rear quarter panel. They'll draw even into 3. Neither one are going to give this up. You know it. We saw these two battle it out before there at the initial start of this race as well.
The Jump's going to clear into 4. I think that you get away here a little bit. Peterson's going to try back down on the bottom. Gives him some opportunity to maybe try some different ways to try to get, learn what your truck's going to do around another driver. The side-by-side battle, obviously, you're going to be, kind of head-to-head battles throughout the night with the way the track is. And some opportunity here for Peterson to see what he's able to do on fresh tires and grab it from Nathan Jump.
Keep an eye on that 24 Tony Manji as well. We documented him coming off that runner-up finish last week at Michigan, and it's kind of been feast or famine so far this season for him. So far, he's had 3 finishes up inside of the top 5. Of his other 3 starts, he's finished outside of the top 20. So looking for a little bit of consistency is that number 24 truck as he comes into this race, currently situated inside of the 10th position in points. That is the last points-paying position to get into the playoffs.
And just keeping the track position so far and staying up in that top 3 where he started. It's important here in a track that's tough to pass. look a little farther back in our top 10, I think about we talking, the tire strategies and saving your stuff. That's something that we've seen Matthew Weeks do a lot of. He's running in 6th right now. He started a little farther up and kind of moved back on that first run with an early caution. I think he was probably hoping we'd run a little bit longer. That's a guy that we've seen run long and do really well on old tires. We're going to have a spin.
Jump! Off the nose of Tony Maggi, up against the wall. We're still green. Now the caution will wave. Battle gone wrong for second. They were blocking all the way down the back straightaway, and Jump pays the price in the third corner.
Yeah,
See that right front tire is up off the ground.
Like a couple blocks down the backstretch. We'll have to see the replay, and really it's just from there running out of room, entering the corner.
For second place, Nathan Jump defending against Tony Maggi. Both were going to have a pretty shallow entry going into 3, just based off of where those blocks were taking place down the backstretch. Almost to the grass, Maggi almost goes there, and then you just see the contact as they enter into the third corner, and Nathan Jump, pretty hard impact with both the right front and the right rear. Saw in that initial camera angle that the suspension broken a bit there in the front as that right front tire was up off the racing surface.
Yeah, and you know that, like, obviously the big block down the backstretch, 11 laps in this race. I see that as something like, I don't know if that's a good idea, and then the 24, I don't know, you don't want to assume, but like giving no room then entering the corner just because you're going to be a little bit higher with that shallow entry, and I don't know, it's a tough situation to have that happen so early.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. I mean, obviously we've talked about how track position is important. I think our old friend Gapwack might have come into play right there. Appeared to be a little bit of space between that right front of the 24 and the left rear of the 11. But I'm with you. Just kind of seems like a little early to be throwing blocks like that. We fully expect to see stuff like that as we get closer towards 10 laps to go, 5 laps to go, white flag lap. But this early on in the race, if somebody's got you on the inside, maybe better just kind of throw up your hands, tuck in line behind them, rather than run into the possibility that we just saw right here of Nathan Jump paying the ultimate price. I was going to mention, just before that caution came out, I was going to be curious about that damage on the right front of William Barbagelata, who was involved in our first caution, and he had already lost about 2.5 seconds to his nearest competitor, so aero damage definitely coming into play.
Yeah, it's tough to make laps at a track with these long straightaways and just put together your whatever you can in a wounded race truck. So yeah, tough night for guys like Barbagelata and Jump, who are both going to have some damage now. It looks like Jump's working on it on pit road. Barbagelata also back down, working on some damage right now. But I also noticed we saw it on our screens there. Matthew Weeks decided to make a pit stop. So not sure if it was for tires. Maybe just trying to make sure he's got a little extra fuel. I was kind of thinking, like, if by chance this went green, you could, like, maybe make it on one more stop, but it'd be a lot of savings. So kind of interesting for him to come down and pit there.
Yeah, interesting call there out of the points leader, who obviously at this point in time would not be the points leader, with Christian Peterson only being 1 point behind him coming into this race. Zachary Henry 16 back, Spencer Owens, Elliot Henderson 21 back, each in 4th and 5th. And interesting, that contact we saw there between Jump and Maggi, those are the last 2 drivers currently in the playoff grid if the regular season were to have come to a close last week at Michigan, 9th and 10th in points. Nathan Jump's been another driver, 3 top 10s here on the season in the first 6 races, that has seemed like he's obviously got the speed to be able to find victory circle. He's just not been able to close out these races, and after starting on the pole here this afternoon, looks like he's not going to be able to snap that winless streak here in season 11 again.
Yeah, and I mentioned, a guy that has won in this league a lot and the champion, and then, a guy that typically you see moments of kind of taking it easy and and just being there at the end, and even sometimes stealing one in this league. And then today, and we've seen a couple times this year, just racing really hard early. And I mean, it's a great show for us. We're enjoying it, and I think that's kind of what you got to do if your competitors around you, which we've seen, we're racing them hard too. So unfortunately, yeah, just jumped up to bite you in the worst time and early in this race. So another reset here where we're gonna have two fast trucks, but also teammates here in Peterson and Manji up front. So we see now for the first time Daniel Nanny's going to be up in the top 3, and then also Madalinas now sitting there in 4th.
Yeah, Jared Darling going to be restarting the 5th position. He's the first driver out of the top 10 in points, 11th in the standings, only 5 points out of the 10th spot. So he could very well move into the top 10 with the hard luck that Nathan Jump just ran into. And to his outside there, Zachary Henry. I just mentioned Henry, 3rd in points, 16 points back. I feel like he's been the silent assassin so far here in Season 11. We haven't talked a whole lot about him, but 4 top 10s here in the first 6 races. The consistency has been there. He's just not been flashy up inside of the podium at the end of the day. He's been getting those solid 5th through 10th positions each week.
Yeah, and looking back, I think pretty much top 10s almost every race he's been in here at Indianapolis in this series. So pretty good here. Definitely one of his probably better tracks.
Green flag to come back out once again. Christian Peterson is the control truck. He elects the outside line here and gets a great launch to the start-finish line in the Yard of Bricks. He'll lead them stacked up double wide for the 2nd position. Madalinas now on the outside of Tony Manji.
We've seen it. The leader is able to get away pretty easily and let 2nd and 3rd kind of battle it out, and set up well for Madalinas to be on the outside of Tony Manji here. Could have closed the door. Yes, the 24 just barely got in front of him. Madalina's going to push him down the backstretch.
Tell you, unless you've been to Indianapolis, you lose sight of the scale of this racetrack. I love how something can be happening on one end of the racetrack and be entirely different on the other side. You just saw turns 1 and 2, bathed in cloud cover, but sunlight from the back straightaway all the way over here into 3 and 4.
Yeah, and it's crazy to see these drivers kind of get spread out too a little bit, and then you're like, yeah, but they're all still in one section of the racetrack. So down this backstretch, you see pretty much the whole field on the whole first half of the backstretch as they're snaking down pretty much single file all the way back to 15th through the 16th on back here. This is where they're racing.
Where you find Eric Kemp side by side with the 18, that orange truck on the outside, Matthew Durr, Jared Duda looking on in the 53. Just currently a battle just outside of the top 15.
Duda had a nice run off of 2 there with those 2 fighting in front of him. Decided to
do we want to block him this early?
Yeah, passed Kemp and then tried to get around Durr, and Durr did a nice job of just a great timing of a block there that worked. It's a little scary. We saw the last caution blocking down that backstretch can come with some consequences, but able to hold on for now.
See, just back behind them, 20th place is Matthew Weeks, who came to pit road, and I think that it was a fuel-only stop. To your point there for the 56, only spent about 5.5 seconds on pit road, so we may not necessarily see him cutting his way up through the field as quickly as he would if he had fresh tires as opposed to the drivers around him, but we do know that if this thing goes long green, that he would obviously try and stretch it a lot longer than other drivers that are around him.
Yeah, and I think, obviously the pack style of race here, you can, and the amount you have to slow down, you can definitely save some fuel too. So if, I don't think he's going to be able to drive all the way back up into the top 5 where he was kind of running. But, if you know that that's the case, and this is the strategy that you're going with, which obviously he has, you might as well save some fuel and try to do max save and try to open up that window as much as possible to maybe do something a little different than these front runners.
Just keeping an eye back there on the 37 of Elliot Henderson. P8 is where he's currently situated, and we mentioned about the fact he's a 3-time winner here, has won 3 in a row. Kind of interesting, looking at his stats coming into this race, he's led over 1/3 of the laps that he's been involved here in the Truck Series at this venue, but we've yet to really see him make his way up to the front here. So based off of that, he's got 3 victories here. He's kind of done it all in terms of the strategies. Are we maybe trying to write a new page in the playbook here? See what we can do with maybe reining the horses back in a little bit and not being ultra aggressive in the early going?
Well, I think it's also like the veteran idea of like he's a guy that's been around for such a long time, knows that this race probably will have a green flag run at some point, so might as well save your stuff. And if you don't get that opportunity like we did, that just quick 8-lap run in the first the first little run there, it gives you this moment that you got to save here at some point and hope for a green flag run, but it's just going to keep you kind of right where you're at and not give you the opportunity to move forward if you're not taking advantage of the short run. So yeah, interested to see if he takes off maybe the second half of the longer run here.
Great battle going on just outside the top 10. This is from 11th on back. Hunter Brittle, Jackson Sims, Shane Neiswanger now make his way around the 26 of Ashton Lawson. There's the Giant Tiger machine of number 14 of Gavin Fitzgerald back in the field. A lot of these drivers back in this area. There are others that are kind of hovering just below or just above that cut line. Lawson 8th in the points coming into this. Neiswanger 6th in the standings. Brent Kincott, Jackson Sims, Hunter Brittle, they're 12th, 13th, and 15th in points. So when we talk about this stretch of big racetracks and how strategy will come into play, usually those strategy type events is where we end up having a lot of shifting, a lot of ebbs and flows in the point stand, specifically around the cut line. We saw it last week at Michigan. Expect to see the same here today at Indianapolis, and more than likely next week when we get to the tricky triangle in the Pocono Mountains.
Lawson and Neiswanger, they're both moving up pretty decent for a track that it's tough to pass, where you see these leaders now kind of almost doubling up a little bit with Peterson and Manji pushing each other, and Madalinas and Nanny 3rd and 4th. Jared Darling just kind of looking on in 5th, but yeah, I don't know if there's a little bit of saving here, or at least, whether it's tires or fuel, you probably do want to save now that we've gotten rolling here a little bit and have at least a little bit of a feel of a green flag run.
Keeping an eye on some of those drivers that did pit under this caution period. Matthew Weeks has picked up a total of 6 spots. Correction, make that 7 spots since we went back green. 4 positions picked up by Justin Mons. Most of the other drivers that came down and topped off the fuel tank are pretty much running where they started on that previous restart. About 13 laps, making now 14 laps into this run for the race leaders. And what are we looking at here potentially for a target lap for these drivers? Are they full on 2 stops to the finish, or is there a way that they could also save enough fuel to maybe get into the same category, the same conversation there with Matthew Weeks of 1 more stop to the end?
Yeah, I think the farthest you could maybe stretch a fuel run here is 30 laps, maybe 31 or 32 if you're really, really good at it. I don't know, and you might need a caution or two to even get that far. So I think these drivers for sure have to make at least 2 more stops. So I think they're just, if anything, saving a little bit of tire and knowing that you got to run almost 30 laps here to before you make your stop. But I think that target number will be anywhere after lap 50. You'll be able to make it to the end, but I just question whether anyone really truly can make it 250 to begin with, because we went back to green just after lap 15 there, so that's 5 laps before that window kind of opens. So to run 5 green flag laps on additional to your the 30 that you have to go, I think that'd be stretching it for a guy like Weeks. And we also saw Justin Mons is one of those guys back in 20th who came in and topped off. So definitely think this is just saving your stuff and for maybe later in the run here, but I don't think there's anything as far as trying to get into a window yet.
Peterson creating the draft there for his teammate Tony Manji. Peterson looking for his 2nd win on the season after he won earlier on this year at the short track at Richmond. Hunter Madalinas there in 3rd, and something that I think we kind of lose sight of. We've talked about the hard luck of Hunter Madalinas here the last couple of weeks, except for the DNF back at Watkins Glen. Last week, damaged race car, finished, I believe, was off the lead lap in the 30th position. Despite those 2 poor finishes, he's still sitting 7th in points. So that's just a testament to how strong he was in those first 4 races. Yes, he ended up dropping in the standings, but he didn't drop out of the top 10. So That shows just what kind of consistency he was able to have right out of the gate. Hit a little bit of a bump in the road, and right now running solidly inside of the top 5, defending champ. If he starts getting back to those consistent ways, look out here in the midway portion of the regular season.
Yeah, he's a, when they say, a good points day is, a lot of drivers would say, just, maximizing what you can get and getting, as many points as maybe you're capable of getting. Madalinas, he's like, a good points day is the most points. Let's go for the win, so that's the way he operates. His goal is to win every single race, and hopefully the points just take care of himself in the end.
A little surprised as of right now that we're seeing these 2-truck tandems, but I kind of wondered at some point, would we see maybe Hunter Madalinas let the 30 of Daniel Nanny on by, or up at the front there, Christian Peterson let Tony Mangi on by, so that way they can maybe get on the same window in terms of fuel, because one would assume they're working together now. They may start communicating in terms of coming to pit road together. The truck in front is obviously using up a lot more fuel, being out in clean air, creating the draft for the truck behind. Would we see maybe some kind of a swap here between these two groups of two to try and get themselves a little more equal on what lap they're trying to stretch to?
Yeah, I don't know. I think also the driver behind maybe sometimes with the dirty air is going to maybe burn up a little bit more tire, so they sometimes want to pass so that they can, the driver in front is maybe using a little bit more tire with the cleaner air. So I don't know. Yeah, it's maybe it's common to think that would be something we'd see at some point, but I feel that they're not necessarily on an edge of a window. So I think if one runs out a little bit earlier, I think they all just come down as we see them close up on the lap truck of Nathan Jump, who still in the lead lap here, just hoping to maybe get a caution and keep working on this thing.
Nathan Jump and Tony Mangi had that contact with each other. I was going to be interested to see what happened when the 24 went by, but looks like he's going to clear Jump as well. We talk about these bigger racetracks. They are so aerodynamically dependent. They rely on that straight line speed, and even the slightest wrinkle in the hood is going to cause drag and cause you to lose a little bit of that straight line speed against the rest of your competition. We see that with Nathan Jump, William Barber-Gelada off the pace, as well as some great battling going on through the field. We saw Matthew Weeks continue to work his way forward. Nice move there by Shane Neiswanger, just barely clearing the nose of Spencer Owens, as here it is, Weeks side by side with Jared Duda trying to work his way back up into the top 15 as Matthew Weeks.
Slowly but surely moving up here. And not far behind him is also Justin Mons in that 41, who's also on that same strategy, came in and fueled up there on that caution on lap 14. So, yeah, if you want to gain as many spots possible if you're those drivers here, so that way if green flag pit stops happen, you can get to the lead a little bit sooner, and that's kind of a goal. Is like, obviously you want to maybe lead and see the caution come out, but you were just kind of mentioning the guys up front, and when they pit, we got to remember the undercut is an option here. So if guys like Peterson and Mangi burn up their stuff early, they can pit and still stay on the lead lap and take advantage of those fresh tires. But yeah, it looks like Madalinas and Nanny were able to close up a little bit on Peterson and Mangi.
And I think part of that was them having a little bit of difficulty getting around the 11 of Nathan Jump. So now what was 2 packs of 2 now becomes a 4-car battle up here, 4-truck battle, I should say, at the front of the field. Zachary Henry, caution out. That'll budge everybody back up. Trouble up here at turn 1. That's Jared Duda has gone around on the entry of the corner.
Not sure what happened there. I just kind of looked up and they're like, okay, caution's out. I have to see.
Jared was back around the 15th position. He had just lost the spot to Matthew Weeks.
Looks like he was racing with Matthew Durr down the front stretch. Maybe some side drafting going wrong here, I'm looking at.
Catching that 11 of Nathan
Yeah.
Jump. I think Jared Duda was trying to move low to go to the inside of the 11, and to your point, as the 18 was trying to side draft, there wasn't a whole lot of maneuver room for Duda to be able to come down.
Tough spot to catch a lapper, and you kind of almost, if you're Durr, you're almost somewhat thinking like this is an opportunity almost to use him as a pick, but the speed difference, it's so hard if you're for Duda to be able to check up there and let him go because it's so much speed difference. Obviously, Jump was struggling a lot there, but unfortunately, that's gonna end Jared Duda's night, or at least send him on the tow truck back to pit road.
Matthew Weeks just up ahead there in that 56, and how much is he kind of going inside the car, because he obviously wanted this thing to go long to gain track position. This kind of put him back in the same window as everybody, and maybe he's lost a bit of track position on this alternative strategy, or do you think that maybe we stay out here for the 56?
I'd love to see him try. I love trying stuff, even if you get it wrong. Who cares? It's fun to see, especially from us sitting up here. but I think that this unfortunately is going to probably put him, kind of cement him into the position that he's currently running in 15th. So kind of going to be a reset for everybody here. I think we're going to see everybody down pit road, and it sure looks that way so far. Yeah, it looks like everybody down pit road.
So correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the timing of this yellow, now everybody's in the window to be able to make it the rest of the way on one more pit stop.
Correct. Yep, this should, I feel confident that you'd have no problem making it on one more pit stop from here.
So Jared Duda back there, they're continuing to make repairs on his machine after some pretty extensive rear end contact, specifically that left rear quarter panel. As he got looped around the entrance of turn 1. We're going to watch this battle off of pit road. It was fun after the first caution when they all came down. Let's see how close it might potentially be here this time. Looks like no contest. Christian Peterson going to edge out Tony Manji. Up a couple of spots will be Daniel Nanny. Where in the world did Hunter Madalinas go? Looks like he lost 3 or 4 spots there on that stop.
Yeah, a little bit longer on pit road to lose, unfortunately, a few spots. Yeah, it was running 3rd. It looks like to be, at least 7th there. But yeah, we saw that great battle the previous time down pit road. This time, a little bit easier for Peterson to be able to grab that. Still one of the best so far tonight on pit road. Looks like Daniel Nanny did a nice job getting on and off of pit road, but still running in 3rd here. It looks like, as Manji is between Peterson and Nanny there in 2nd.
The ironic thing is, I'm looking here, Hunter Madalinas and his pit crew had the fastest pit stop of anybody inside of the top 10. However, there was about a second to a second and a half slower overall in terms of pit lane, so not sure where he lost that time. Maybe didn't get a very good launch out of his pit stall to the commitment line on pit road exit, but I'm going to start a little bit deeper in the field here. He came down pit road in 3rd, going to restart in 7th place behind Jared Darling, Elliot Henderson, who were able to gain a couple of spots on his misfortune. Let's look at the 7. Let's see if we can find out anything.
Slide through the box, maybe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was thinking, just to lose a second or two, it's got to be more of a mistake, either sliding through the box or maybe being in the wrong gear when you leave your box or something. But yeah, it looks like slid a little too far in the box, and you had to back up to get back to let them start working on it.
These pit stalls are tough. That pit road itself is asphalt. The pit boxes are concrete, so you're going from one surface to another under braking. And those front tires, if they lock up or they slide, as we saw right there, it could cost you a lot of precious time on pit road and translate to a lot of valuable spots lost on an upcoming restart. It's something we'll be talking about next week at Pocono as well, another racetrack where pit road is asphalt, but the pit stalls themselves are concrete-based.
And just cleaning up a couple things on our caution here. We had that moment of the caution getting around the lap truck of Nathan Jump. Well, he was the free pass, ironically. So back on the lead lap. I know he doesn't have the pace at all with that damage, but at least being back on the lead lap, some more opportunity maybe to work on some damage. He may have a chance at least to pick up positions if anyone else has issues. I see Barber Gelato was also a long time on pit road. So was Nicholas Caressel. I'm not sure if he had some damage somewhere in there that he's been working on, but a handful of drivers spending a little bit more time on pit road, maybe just trying to fix any possible damage that we got in that in the first 30 so laps of this race.
I've seen a couple of drivers mid-pack. They've slid up off the corner and either kissed or pancaked the outside wall, so maybe trying to clear the sheet metal around those right side tires for a couple of those drivers that'll start deep in the field now after a little bit of a lengthy stay on pit road. Looks like they have taken the 53 truck of Jared Duda. They've taken him back behind the wall. He'll finish 30th place here tonight as green flag set to come back out here. Lap 34 on the board at Indianapolis.
Probably the closest we've seen second place be to the leader, and it gave Manji the opportunity to just slide into second, not have to battle Daniel Nanny as far as the top three. They all kind of get single file, and now we see Zach Henry up to fourth here on this restart, and now even Elliot Henderson, another guy that's kind of snuck his way up here, battling for a top 5 spot.
Put the pressure on Jared Darling. That'd be for the 5th position. Stacked up behind them, John Barry on the outside of Hunter Madalinas. You got Hunter Brittle and Jackson Sims. They're side by side as well. Pretty much stacked up from about the 6th position back to 15th.
Both John Barry, Hunter Brittle, both on the outside there. Both of those trucks are just slowly making their way up into the top 10 here. I thought that they both been pretty quiet so far tonight, but doing a great job just slowly gaining track position. Man, they're getting tight off of 2 there with Jackson Sims on the bottom, not giving much room off of the corner.
Try and get that run off the high side of 2. He'll clear for the spot. Door opens up now for Ashton Lawson to draw a bead on that purple number 6 Toyota of Jackson Sims. He'll try and move around for the 10th position and will do so into 3.
Nice pass to be able to clear and then just have that momentum to kind of get away too and set to. I always kind of felt like at Indy it's like the first corner of the 2 on either end is it's just an opportunity to hope the driver in front of you makes a mistake. It's all the money is in the second corner of the 2 sets. So that's where you make your finish off your pass and try to get your momentum to roll down these long straightaways.
I mentioned about the fact that this is a racetrack that has very low banking, and you touched on the fact that it's very difficult to pass here, but we have seen, at least in the early going of these restarts, that there is a second lane. If you can get to the outside of somebody on one of these straightaways, there is enough grip up there in the top line to try and swing around them before you get to the center of that short chute between 1 and 2 or over here in 3 and 4. Does that option go away the longer the run goes on and the less grip you have in those tires, or is that option still there for a driver to maybe utilize if they're trying to battle for a win later on in this race?
Yeah, I think maybe it's probably a little easier. We've seen, like, as we've gone farther into a run, they get single filed out a lot easier. It's kind of just showing that it's maybe a little tougher to pass or at least run that top lane once your tires wear out. I think the biggest thing is it's even tougher to run the bottom, and if you're a driver on the outside, you're not wanting to have somebody on the inside that it's hard for them to stay glued to the bottom because we talked about how narrow it is up off the corner. So it's just so hard to want to be either driver in a side-by-side battle once the tires wear down a little bit.
Jackson Sims still on that inside line. Matthew Durr tried to get to his right rear quarter panel, not going to be able to take that 13th spot as Sims will tuck in line there behind Matthew Weeks. And it will be interesting to kind of follow the 56, the 41 drivers that went a little bit outside the box in terms of fuel strategy back during our second caution. See if they are able to have the speed to work their way back up to the front. I believe it was around the 6th position that Matthew Weeks pit from. Of course, that caution mired him back in 15th. He's been able to move up a couple spots since the green flag, now up to 12th, but trying to get back to where he was before he tried doing that little bit unorthodox strategy from the other drivers around him.
And I said it. I love the idea of just trying something, Maybe this is a track that Weeks feels like, okay, maybe I'm not going to be one of those top 2 or top 3, on speed and want to do something different. I like that. It's something that it gives us something to talk about, and you never know. You can steal one pretty easily if things kind of go your way. So ultimately, obviously lost overall 7 or 8 positions here. If this gets back going long run here, I think he probably can get back to where he was to begin with, and then probably not feel so bad about the situation he was in. So maybe that's the goal right now, is just get back up there and kind of fix the issue that came with that caution falling in the middle of that last run.
In the battle between Shane Nicewanger, Ashton Lawson, a couple of drivers top 10 in points coming into this race. Nicewanger started pretty deep in the field. He's been very patient, been able to work his way now almost into the top 10. This is the battle for 10th position, and Matthew Weeks will play on through, pick up the 12th spot there on the 49, but Nicewanger, I believe, is one of our highest drivers in terms of working his way through the field here this afternoon in this one. He's been another driver that's been quietly consistent, and you talk about trying something. All right, we went back green with 46 laps to go. How much wiggle room do we have here on that final pit stop for drivers to be able to try something, maybe try a major undercut or try and run as long as they can, try maybe a little short pit strategy?
I think the if you're any of the drivers, up in the top 5 or 6, it's inviting, because like I was saying before, you could maybe pit and still be on the lead lap, which ultimately gives you the opportunity to get caught back up if the caution comes out. You don't lose as much track position, you just maybe be down on tires on the late restart. But yeah, I think some of these drivers farther back, they can try it, but they're going to probably fall somewhere in the middle of the pack when they come back onto the track, and the tire advantage is going to be tough when you're having to, you'll have the advantage and be able to drive through this pack, but it's going to be a little tough to make up ground when you have to be worried about passing drivers and getting through the traffic that is this whole pack right now. So yeah, I think if you're one of these guys up front, maybe you can throw that. I think about Nanny, if he feels like he maybe doesn't have anything for this front two, which I think he will at some point, but maybe a guy like Henderson, Madalinas that are here maybe trying to just go for a win, maybe those guys are ones that maybe try the undercut and try to jump in front of them at some point with the green flag and pit stop.
See that bright green truck just up ahead, holding down the 9th position, Hunter Brittle in the 10. It was looking like early portion of the season that he was going to have a lot of difficulty maybe getting himself up into the conversation for a playoff spot. Started out the season with a couple of finishes inside of the top 20, but then ended up finishing 28th at Richmond, 26th at Charlotte. Seems to be turning it back around a little bit. Finished 12th at Watkins Glen, and last week scored his first top 10 in the season at Michigan. Appears to really like these high-speed racetracks. He's again up here inside of the top 10, 9th position, trying to hold off Ashton Lawson.
Yeah, just off of turn 4 there, Jackson Sims got a little high, maybe even got the wall a little bit on exit. That's looks like once you get these tires rolling after 10 laps or so, it's very easy to kind of drift off of these corners and get close to the wall, and a lot of these drivers cutting it close. You talked about it, maybe some of them fixing damage on that last stop because of those because of the pancake to the wall, but you got to keep it clean, and some of these guys up in the top 10 able to do so far.
Looking at Ashton Lawson in the 26 right now, last driver inside of the top 10. Comes into this race 8th in the point standings, and we put a lot of emphasis, obviously, on race victories. Obviously, everybody, as soon as they buckled it to their seat, they put that helmet on, they want to be the first one to that checkered flag every single week. That's why they get behind the wheel, but the playoff system that we have here in the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series rewards consistency as well. And a lot of people will think when you talk consistency, we mean top 5 every week, top 10 every week. But this type of a playoff system actually rewards drivers that can consistently finish inside of the top 15, even the top 20 each and every week, because we see so many times a driver can win one week and then they DNF the following week. That inconsistency can put you in a bit of a hole. If you keep consistently finishing top 15, top 20 every week, you're going to garner enough points that you're more than likely going to go playoff racing at the end of the regular season. Ashton Lawson is the only driver inside of the top 10 that has only 2 finishes in the top 10. But he's been consistently able to finish still inside of the top 15 in those races that he doesn't at a top 10 result. That's why he is where he is in points.
these longer seasons, it kind of rewards the opportunity of just staying clean and showing up every week and doing your best, and sometimes just running top 15 will do it. I'll be honest, I've made chases and playoffs in this league for doing that exact thing for many years, and that it works. You can just basically survive your way in, and then who knows? Then when you get to the chase part of the season, you have an opportunity to battle it out with the front runners.
Christian Peterson still out in front, but if he takes a glance up in his rearview mirror, he's not going to see a familiar face in Tony Manji. Daniel Nanny has now moved into the second spot, hunting win number 3 in a row, and they are fast approaching that slower machine of Nathan Jump. Whoa, actually, you can see both of them working off of turn 1. Peterson got loose. Nanny actually got the wall.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a chance of a little bit of dirty air there from Jump's truck in front of Peterson, or just both being a little, as they're going to try to lap Nathan Jump again. Jump gives a little bit of room, but close quarters as they go by here. But yeah, I don't know. Both of them got the wall at the same time. I guess if you're gonna get the wall running first or second, it's okay if the other driver does too.
I think it may be a case of the donkey and the carrot. You've got Peterson, who's trying to get everything out of that truck to pull away from Nanny. Nanny's trying to get everything out of his truck to be able to close up the gap. They're both maybe asking a little too much than the truck and those tires are willing to give.
I saw Jump down the front stretch there, giving a little, not making it easy for Manji to get by. I just thought that these drivers, as they, you kind of get into a little bit of a rhythm, and then you catch a lapper like Jump, and he has every right to at least race you a little bit, but ultimately letting them go in the end. But yeah, it's you got to be careful getting through the lap traffic, especially after running a handful of laps kind of by yourself, just riding here.
About 7.5 tenths of a second for Peterson back to Nanny, nearly 1.2 seconds back to Tony Manji. None of these drivers right now really getting the benefit of draft, so that would obviously affect their fuel mileage here. You got another maybe 5-6 truck lengths from Manji back to Zach Henry in the 4th position. So at this point in time now, have we kind of entered into where everybody's running their own race now, and this now opens up the window where we would see different drivers on different strategies rather than the co-opetition that we saw earlier where we had those 2 truck tandems?
Yeah, we're closing in here. Another couple laps here. Your fuel window opens if you wanted to come down early. I think some of these drivers, got drivers outside the top 20 that, I guess it's maybe worth a shot to just pit and try to do something a little different and hope that the green flag run goes all the way through. But yeah, I think right now it's getting pretty spread out. We'll see if anybody decides to pit once this pit window opens. I think the other side of it is you want to be able to have your tires later in this last run. So I think going a little bit farther is going to be the bigger strategy for a lot of these drivers. We'll see if any of them have been saving fuel to try to go just a little bit farther than the people they're racing around.
Some teammates here, trifecta of them that could work together. The one of Jared Darling, the 700 Madalinas, Elliot Henderson just a little ways back behind them. 3 drivers out of Spectrum Racing, and might be able to tandem here together. One would have to assume that there's some communication going on, that they might all try to come to pit road on the same lap, because you come to pit road together, you leave together, you've still got some drafting partners to be able to get that good, solid drafting straight line speed once everything cycles around.
For sure, and it's a lot easier to follow your teammates and know kind of what they're doing, and maybe give you a chance to start talking right now, kind of planning your pit stop. But if we go back up to the front, it looks like we may have a battle for the lead here, as Daniel Nanny's been able to close down on Christian Peterson.
He was 7 tenths of a second back. He's been able to get now to within a truck length of Peterson. Look for that 3rd win on the season again, as we mentioned, and running a part-time schedule, more than likely wouldn't be able to make enough starts to get himself up into the top 10 in points. But as you said, that just gives him a little bit of freedom, a little bit of a luxury here to be able to go all out in terms of being aggressive to try and get that truck in victory lane. He's been able to do it twice, now looking for his 3rd win in a row, and we'll have to see how patient he's going to be here with Peterson, because I don't know if he's got a better truck, if he saved his tires a little better here on this longer run, or if it was really that slipstream, that draft that allowed him to be able to close up, and now he's going to have to deal with dirty air.
Yeah, we'll see here as we close in on these pit stops what some of these drivers are going to do if you're a guy like Peterson or Nanny, because you've closed up. Did one of them decide to make the move, as now the window is pretty much open? I think another lap here, it's officially open, but you can make it from here, depending on when you stop. But I think right now Nanny's going to at least try to force Peterson into a mistake and try to grab this lead before the pit stops.
So what's pros cons of short pitting or running long? I would assume, obviously, at least on the long side, you could maybe take on less fuel, but is it almost a guarantee that we're taking 4 tires regardless of when we're coming to pit road? So that less amount of time taking fuel on pit lane is kind of a moot point?
Yeah, and I think the bigger side is just you want to be kind of, the idea of being the last one to pit road gives you the opportunity to have fresher tires if a caution comes out like right after the pit stop happens. Maybe you decide, track position's a big deal, and then you can stay out. You may have a couple laps fresher tires. I think that's a huge plus if that does happen. If we get all the way through the green flag pit stop, then maybe, if you run long, maybe even the guys that short pit are going to have to grab tires again. So I think a lot of these drivers, because we've seen some tire wear tonight, as Nanny's going to have a run here, I think they're going to try to go as far as possible.
And he shows the nose, can't stay to the left rear quarter pail there through 3. Now he'll try and generate a run again here off of 4 and onto the front straightaway, and looking consistently all the way through this field. Time to be gained on the undercut, about 2.5 seconds. So there is a lot of drivers you see back there from 4th place on back. There's less than 2.5 seconds separating, I believe, 5th back to around 15th. So you kind of do the math, 2.5 seconds gained. Driver that's running back around the outside of the top 10 could find himself up in the middle portion around maybe the 7th, 8th position once everything cycles around. We'll have to see who's going to play that strategy here, of course, as well. As you mentioned, the potential timing of a yellow. A lot of drivers, if they end up playing that undercut, come to pit road early. Caution comes out a little bit later. Do they stay out and run the risk of the fresher tires behind them? Do they come to pit road? They've got a number of sets still available to allow them to be able to take on some fresh tires if they needed to for a late race restart. But man, we've seen so many strategy races before here at Indianapolis where the timing of a yellow just completely messes things up. So you got a number in your head, but a lot of times you kind of maybe second guess yourself and throw that equation of the yellow flag potentially flying coming into play as Nanny major loose there out of turn 1.
Yeah, this has been spectacular what Nanny's been able to do behind Peterson, and Christian Peterson's doing a great job of just holding them off and just kind of just holding them up just enough that it's hard to make the momentum. I think Nanny's a little bit better than Peterson right now, but just it's so tough to complete the pass. Maybe just you got to be just you can't be a little bit better to make this pass. You probably got to be a lot better, and that's what Nanny needs here. So we'll see if he can mount another comeback. Really, as far as going, this pit window, it's open now. We're only 6 or 7 laps away from everyone having to pit anyway. So the window choice is not very big, as far as where the pit stop is, because we were able to get back to green, knowing that we're going to make it on one more stop. It was going to be 2 pretty much full runs here to the end.
I'll tell you, I'm a little surprised we didn't see Peterson or Nanny come to pit road that lap, because you see them now working their way around the 27 of William Barber-Gelada. A lot of drivers will talk about the delta when we're at a track like this. Try and figure out how you could get your truck out in clean air once the cycle is complete. How about this? Little muscling out of the way there. Daniel Nanny going to force his way through for the top position.
Yeah, I think just a bad timing as far as where Peterson caught Barber-Gelada. And that's going to lose him the lead here as Nanny's going to take over. Yeah, just nice job by Daniel Nanny to capitalize on that moment from Peterson coming off of the corner and able to use the draft, get alongside Christian Peterson, and ultimately make the pass. We'll see if he can, grow this lead a little bit before the pit stop. I'm kind of wondering now, if you're Peterson, do you just jump down pit road, try to get those tires, try to get Nanny maybe guessing a little bit, or maybe does Peterson feel he can race him back in the second half of this next run?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we're probably going to see the 71 on pit road this time. Maybe even his teammate Tony Maggi, who just made his way around William Barber-Gelata, holding down the third position, because now the roles of cat and mouse have reversed, and Peterson has the opportunity here, being in the rearview mirror, to be able to make the dive onto pit road and leapfrog the 30 truck of Nanny. Let's see here as they make their way out of the final corner. Nope, no dive onto pit road yet here for the 71.
Yeah, by pitting here on this next lap or so, you're going to really pretty much split this last 50 lap run into 2 runs. So I think that if you're going to go any farther the next couple laps, that really shows the hand of these drivers feeling confident that the second run is they're going to want the freshest tires possible, and maybe feeling that there's a chance that caution will ruin it or ruin their opportunity if they don't if they pit too early. But yeah, we'll have to see if anyone pits this time. I kind of was hoping even some of these guys 4th, 5th, 6th to jump down there and just try to put a little pressure on these leaders as far as getting those tires, and maybe even jumping up there and catching up to these guys through the entire green flag run.
You mentioned the word feeling. They have to wonder what the difference of feeling is now for these drivers. Nanny spent a good portion of that run in the wake of Christian Peterson. That deer to air to the noses. Here we go. Got about half dozen coming down pit road there, being led by Zach Henry, Ashton Lawson there, Shane Neiswanger, that's Matthew Durr in the 18, Jackson Sims. Is that Justin Mons, I believe, back there? Our Daytona winner, Spencer Owens.
Yeah, and this might bring everybody down, or it also might even just force everybody down, because they're all closing in on their, the end of their fuel tank anyways. It looks like maybe Madalinas this time, Hunter Brittle, Justin Mons all calling out. Daniel Nanny, it looks like he's going to be down pit road here too.
Let's keep an eye here after the cycle. First driver of the leaders to pit was Zachary Henry from 5th. We'll see if this gains him any positions once everything cycles, as everybody else on pit road here this time. Interesting that Christian Peterson elected to come down same lap as Daniel Nanny, rather than trying to leapfrog him a little bit here, undercut him maybe by a lap or two.
Yeah, this is going to be a big pit stop here. We saw both Daniel Nanny and Christian Peterson doing a great job of even gaining some spots on yellow flag pit stops tonight. We'll see if they can capitalize on this green flag pit stop, as Zach Henry was one of the first ones down pit road. We'll see if he can gain some spots here on the fresh tires, being out on the clean track all by himself right now.
Michael Sensi stayed out. Looks like he'll be coming into pit road next time around, so a little timeout and clean air, maybe have 1 lap fresher tires than the rest of the competition. As you see them make their way out here, you notice how they kind of go up almost to the racetrack there, off of turn 1. They're allowed to do that. Gives them a nice arc here for the apron as they head for the exit of turn 2, and looks like Zachary Henry's going to gain some spots there. He's going to at least leapfrog the 24 and maybe be on the back bumper of the 71, I should say. Cycles up to 3rd place after being 5th, so nice little net gain there for that undercurrents number 12 machine.
Yeah, and I think it's having just 1 lap older tires than these drivers is probably going to be enough to at least hold your ground for a little while here. We'll see, and who knows, you get another caution and you get a chance to maybe come back down and grab another set of tires and restart 3rd or 4th. That gives Henry at least an opportunity, outside chance to maybe contend for this win if we get another caution here, or maybe these front runners get to racing here. I know it sure seemed like Peterson was better on the kind of the shorter run, and maybe Daniel Nanny faster on the longer run. So we'll see if Peterson's got something for that 30 truck early on in this run.
These that you carry off of turn 4 when preparing for a green flag pit stop, especially when you do with a lot of other drivers, is much like pitting at a super speedway like a Talladega or a Daytona. The only difference is it narrows up on entry with that attenuator wall, and a lot of drivers have to be really hard under braking when they get to that commitment line. It can be very easy to speed on pit road, which unfortunately was the case for our Daytona winner. Looks like Spencer Owens hit with a speeding penalty. He's now going to drop all the way back to 22nd place, 20 laps to try and make up ground that he lost there with a costly mistake.
Yeah, tough spot. You're going to have to hope for a yellow to kind of get back in this race, unfortunately, just because a mistake like that unfortunately happens. But some of these drivers that were able to hit pit road, some of them a lap or two before others, it kind of mixes up this mid-pack. You see Darlene, Sims, Brittle all racing here. Trying to get, all these guys were kind of in the spot to be in the top 10, and now just outside of it after these pit stops.
Henry moved from 5th to 3rd, and Ashton Lawson also gained quite a bit there, undercutting by a lap on the strategy. He moved from 7th now up into the 5th position as he's trying to reel in Tony Manji, trying to hold off Hunter Madalinas. And Matthew Weeks, you see right there, the 3rd truck in this trio, has now cracked back into the top 10. It's been a long road for him here after having to work his way back up through the field. Had that alternative strategy back during the second caution, but almost back up to where he was before he began that strategy, as he's trying to pick up a couple more spots up ahead of him in the form of Shane Neiswanger and Elliott Henderson.
That's what we saw, the idea of trying something different for Weeks. It just took taking so long to get back up, even through a green flag pit cycle here. Going to be at least in a spot to get a top 10 here, running 10th, and maybe have something here for Henderson and Neiswanger to try to get up into 8th or 9th here. So you see he slowly is closing in on Neiswanger's back bumper here.
Up to about 7 laps ago, Jared Duda was the only driver out of the race, but just before that cycle of pit stops began, Blair Neabone brought hit for 29th, and just after the pit stop cycle was completed, Nathan Jump, our pole sitter, who was involved in one of our earlier cautions, has been running damaged off the pace, multiple laps down. He came down pit road, and they have called it a night. He'll finish in 28th position, and that's huge in the fact that Nathan Jump came into this race 9th in the point standings. We've seen Tony Manji running up here at the front, Jared Darling putting together a great run here today, Hunter Brittle up here in the conversation, Matthew Durgis outside the top 10. Seems pretty likely that Nathan Jump's going to find himself below the 10th in the standings cut line going into Pocono next week.
Yeah, tough go of it for a guy that was, had a chance to contend for the win tonight. As we see now, Manji's got back up into the 3rd spot, passing Zach Henry after having just a little bit fresher tires, able to get to 3rd. You see our front runners there ahead of this battle for 3rd, and Peterson's maybe running identical times to Nanny right now, not able to close up too much, maybe able to close up a little bit on that last lap, but I'm not sure if he's got anything. We'll have to see if he's got anything for this longer run at the end here to try to reel in that 30.
Got the slipstream that he could utilize, but the problem is he gets up there about maybe 2-3 truck lengths off the back bumper. He suddenly hits that wall of dirty air, which is going to affect the truck, especially through the center of the corners here. Straight line speed's going to be great, but you almost give it back here when you get into these lower bank turns.
Yeah, it's tough to. You want one, but not the other. But you're gonna get both, no matter where you're at. Or as you get closer, they're both gonna get more effect as you go. So I thought if Jeff's got a chance to maybe visit our friend Eric Kepf back I think up to 18th now, maybe not the night he's wanted. I thought we'd shout out. I thought this was interesting. The guy's the longest running Truck Series driver here in the Great Lakes Truck Series, and tonight 20,000 total laps in the Great Lakes Truck Series League.
Wow. In
11 seasons. We saw last week he didn't run. Last week, one of the few races he missed. The 63 truck was still on track, but yeah, completed just over 20,030 laps so far tonight, is where his total's at. I think that's pretty impressive for a guy that he's hinted at maybe this full-time Great Lakes Truck Series thing isn't something he's going to be doing beyond this year, but basically a mainstay in this league, having hitting the first to get to 20,000 laps.
The resident Great Lakes Racing Truck Series Ironman, if you will, not having the best of runs here tonight, as he's currently back in the 18th position. But man, that's quite a milestone there for driver 63, as he's kept the truck clean, kept it on the lead lap, and looking to finish it out here tonight inside of the top 20. It's interesting, the storylines that we had here to kick off the season. We, up to this point, have now had 7 different drivers capture a pole position in the first 7 races, and we were running a streak of 4 straight races where 4 different drivers go to victory lane. Enter Daniel Nanny. He goes to victory lane at Watkins Glen. He follows it up last week at Michigan, and now out in front here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We're going to get to the point, if he's in the field next week at Pocono, of talking about 4 races, 4 different winners, to 4 races potentially the same driver going to victory lane in 4 of them.
It's impressive for a guy to, and not only that, obviously Daniel Nanny's had some runs in this league before and is familiar with this league, but not able to run full time. It sounded like after we chatted with him last week, yeah. But it's impressive to be able to come in here, a couple. Basically a couple races behind everybody and relearn who you're racing around and all that. And the seasons that he's run in this series, he didn't have guys like Christian Peterson, Tony Manji. They're fairly new to this league, so new guys that he's kind of racing around, at least in this league. So you got to learn who you're racing with and make sure that that you compete fairly with them. And so far, Nanny's done a great job of just sneaking up there in the end almost every one of these races and being a factor in the second half. That's what he's done. And Peterson's not letting him, get this one for free. He's at least going to stay as close as he can here. We'll see if he's got anything for him in these final 13 laps.
I mentioned that Nathan Jump was out of the race. He wasn't showing on the scoring monitor, but he has actually since returned onto the track. There you see his bright yellow number 11 just up ahead of the race leader. And with that cycle green flag pit stops, it has really spread the field out. So we could start to have traffic come into play. Not too far up ahead as well is the last truck on the lead lap, the 28 of James Shiflett. So the 30 is all of a sudden losing the benefit of that clean air to the nose, as he's now going to be in the wake of some of these slower trucks.
Yeah, we saw that on that last green flag run that kind of lost Peterson the lead. It was really just where he caught the lapper. So it's going to be a moment here for Nanny to just kind of navigate this. Going to do a great job with Jump as far as where he's going to meet him, pass him through 3 with no issues. Hopefully Peterson's going to try to do the same in 4. May not work out as well for Peterson. He's going to have Jump in front of him, at least off of 4 and down the front stretch here.
Got a battle brewing here as we're nearing 10 laps to go. This is just outside of the top 10. Matthew Durr, he's put together a solid run here today in that 12th position. Hunter Brittle right behind him in 13th, and Jackson Sims, who comes into this race 13th in points. He was just below the cut line going into Michigan last week, lost a couple of spots, but he's still mathematically in the conversation that he could maybe leapfrog up into the top 10 today, as we've got the 14 of Gavin Fitzgerald on pit road. This has to be unscheduled.
Yeah, maybe this. I think if anything, you're maybe hoping that a caution hits right when you come down pit road and gives you a chance to come get tires. I don't know if maybe got a little bit of damage or something, but ultimately, yeah, unfortunately, down pit road unscheduled.
Hard to tell. There might have been some damage there on that right front quarter panel on the 14 machine, but obviously not going to get the finish he's looking for unless some circumstances, maybe a timely yellow comes out to help him. As a little further back, you saw Michael Sensi. Remember, he was one of the drivers that ran long. He stayed out 1 to 2 laps longer than everybody else, and kind of paying the price for it in terms of track position here. He's trying to utilize the fresher tires to work his way back up into the top 15, but it dropped him back to 15th place, 15th, 16th place after the cycle was complete.
Yeah, and it's, maybe a product of also kind of hoping that, a caution comes out at the right time. If it did by chance, come out just a couple laps after the pit stops and those, a couple lap fresher tires are going to be a huge plus once the pack gets back together, and maybe even some of the drivers in front of you hit. But unfortunately, once it gets back going here, then you got to use the tires throughout this entire run to try to gain that time back. But we talked about that pit stop window kind of splitting it in half. Nobody did. Everybody kind of waited and passed up the opportunity to split the final that final 50 laps here into two 25 lap runs. So they all kind of made it to get it within about 22 laps, maybe 21 laps, and that kind of unfortunately is going to end this last one on a little fresher tires than that last run before that.
Good Spectrum Racing versus Dark Horse Motorsports battle was going on there for 8th place. Henderson was able to complete the pass around Matthew Weeks. Weeks crossed him over, passed him right back. Got a good battle brewing just up ahead of them for 5th place as well. Hunter Madalinas has been putting together some really good lap times. Been able to close up the gap here on Ashton Lawson as they work their way around Nathan Jump.
Kind of I thought that Madalinas maybe would have a little bit more pace here tonight to try to go up there and battle with guys like Nanny and Peterson, but kind of just been kind of quiet for Madalinas for a and you talked about it. Maybe needs a quiet run for once, but just kind of running, pretty much in the top 5 all night. Going to try to battle back here and try to get around Lawson for that 5th spot.
Yeah, a couple of drivers that we really thought were going to show up here tonight. Madalinas, Henderson, 3-time winner here in the Truck Series at Indianapolis. Right now, inside of the top 10, but nowhere close to the conversation for this race victory. You got to wonder if maybe the combination of the difficulty to pass, as well as you said, not a whole lot of outside the box strategy going on that final green flag pit stop. But it's not over yet. We're coming around here. We're going to hit 8 laps to go, and there's always the possibility that we could end up seeing a yellow flag come out. We bunch them all back up, and then it's an entirely new playing field. So these drivers have to have themselves in that mentality. Certainly right now, we're in the mentality of long green flag run to the close, but then all of a sudden, like the flip of a switch, if the caution comes out, you got to go into that late race restart shootout mindset.
Yeah, you said it. It's not over yet, and I'm going to say that is the case up front too. Christian Peterson is not letting Nanny get away, and even closing down the gap a little bit. He was even 0.2 faster that last lap. I don't know if I still feel confident that Nanny is in the best spot here, but he is slowly giving up some time to Peterson. I'm not sure if Peterson's been saving something here for the end, but doing a great job of closing up on our leader.
Kind of almost makes me think back to Michigan when we had that 3-truck battle at the end. Daniel Nanny was able to go from 3rd to 1st. How did he do that? He was able to save tire in the closing stages. I almost wonder here, with Peterson closing up the gap, is Nanny holding back a little bit here, trying to save something so he has something to be able to defend if Peterson does get to his back bumper?
Yeah, that last lap, Peterson was a 10th faster again. Pretty much faster than him pretty much the last 4 laps, but off of turn 1, it looked like Peterson got a little high. Off of turn 2, Nanny got a little high, and they both getting really close to the wall. We saw in that last run, both of them hitting the wall as they're battling. So they're letting it hang out right now. And I think you talked about the slipstream. Peterson, now you're close enough that it really is a huge factor, but again, it's a huge factor also with dirty air. I just don't know if he can close up this last couple tenths. It's going to be really tough.
6 laps to go, going to be 5.5 down the back straightaway. We've seen both these drivers not afraid to let it hang out on the edge. You see a little slide up there off of turn 2 by Daniel Nanny. Both those drivers, their right rear got very close to that safer barrier that juts off the second corner there. They are using up every bit of available racetrack here.
And I definitely think Nanny is sliding off the corner a little bit more than Peterson right now. I don't know if that's just his style or where he's driving up off the corner, but it seems like, Peterson kind of just, trying to keep the truck straight as possible, where Nanny is trying to get everything he has off of the corner. It's maybe two little different driving styles, but ultimately similar lap times again. This time maybe Nanny a little bit faster than Peterson, but not by much.
Madalinas may have spent a little too much time there with Ashton Lawson. He's gotten passed by John Barry, so move Barry up to the 6th position. Matthew Weeks starting to close in on that as well, making a 4-man fight for 5th place on back.
Trying to steal the top 5. We thought a great job by, we said Zach Henry, with the undercut, was able to jump up there in the 3rd. He fell back beyond Manji. I think he's going to be able to hold off the 5th on back battle here and finish 4th if he's able to just keep it clean here. Has a nice gap to the drivers that are battling for that 5th spot, and if they're going to keep battling, it's going to give him that chance to hold on to that 4th place. But a nice job to jump a couple of positions and get a solid finish tonight.
Looking for what would be only his 2nd top 5 so far here this season, but his 5th top 10 in the first 7 starts this season, as that gap continues to maintain about 0.4 of a second from Nanny back to Peterson. And at this point in time, where do we see the pendulum kind of shift here, with Peterson trying to get all he can get to try and close in on Daniel Nanny, to then trying to maybe just make sure he keeps the truck underneath him and hope and pray that Nanny makes a mistake for him to be able to capitalize on, as we're going to go 3 here down the back straightaway.
Yeah, and I saw Nanny that last time got a little bit more of the wall off it too. It's just every time he's given himself no room for error. So if he can continue this drive, it's impressive to be able to just hold that gap and basically put the truck exactly where it needs to be. So far, he's doing that, and it's just a matter of if he doesn't step over that line, because Peterson's there to take advantage if he does.
Well, it took about 60 laps, but Matthew Weeks is now back up where he was when he tried that alternative strategy. He just got around Hunter Madalinas to move into the 6th position, trying to see if he can get up there, maybe snipe a top 5 from the 74 of John Barry, as Madalinas gets the wall there off the corner, and that's a tough spot for Elliot Henderson to try and get on by, because, as you said, the trucks habitually want to push up towards the outside wall. They don't want to turn low off of the corner, and so good job there by Madalinas to keep it up into the wall, but also a great job there, able to bail out of the throttle, get the truck to turn to the inside for Henderson as he moves by for 7th.
Yeah, nice little move for Henderson to just take advantage of Madalinas kind of running out of room there and running out of truck, it looks like, as we're down to just a couple laps to go here, and it's these drivers they all kind of closed up in this pack. We saw them all together here. They all kind of met in the middle in the end here with 2 laps to go, trying to steal final positions here. It'll be interesting to see if any of them can battle it out down to the finish line at the end here.
Nice swanger all over the back bumper of Ashton Lawson. That's for 9th place. You got the lap truck of Gavin Fitzgerald behind them on fresher tires. And then 10th position right now, Shea Lightswater with Jared Darley trying to close in back there in that number 1 truck. Up at the front, though, you see on the top left of your screen, the interval continues to open up. It was 0.4. Last time by, it was a half second. Now it is increasing to 0.7 of a second. Daniel Nanny has either found something, or Christian Peterson has used up all that he's got here, coming around to the white flag.
Yeah, and we talked about it. Maybe we saw it last week. Daniel Nanny did a great job of saving his stuff for the end, and maybe that was the idea. But I think Peterson maybe did the same thing. He did a great job of just putting everything he had in the end to try to close up on Nanny. This time off of 1 there. It looks like Peterson going to get the wall a little bit, just trying to, and Nanny's getting the wall a little bit off it too. They're both hanging it out here with great battle and a great job by both of these guys to give it their all. And unfortunately, Peterson looks like maybe he's going to come up just a little short.
Well, Daniel Nanny 2 weeks ago, upstate New York road course pit strategy gets him the lead. He closes it out for his first win of the season. Last week, he brings it home back to back in the Irish Hills of Michigan. And here tonight, he's going to get to kiss the yard of bricks. It's a three-peat in season 11 as Daniel Nanny takes the Gainbridge 200 at the Brickyard. These battles coming to the start-finish line here, back in the latter half of the top 10. Jared Darling trying to get a last-ditch run there on Ashton Lawson for the 10th position.
Yeah, he talked about Weeks getting back up to 6th, Henderson 7th, Madalinas 8th, nice job by, we talked about Henry, but also John Barry to be able to grab a top 5 in the end. Nice job that last run there of taking advantage of his tires and getting all the way up into the top 5. A great run for him. And Eiswanger in 9th, Lawson 10th. Nice, good racing tonight. I heard Peterson shortly after the checkered there, giving a congratulations to Nanny, and rightfully so. 3 in a row. It's impressive.
3 in a row for Daniel Nanny, just short of his second victory for Peterson, but he'll be taking the points lead by a pretty hefty margin into Pocono next week. Matthew Weeks battling back for 6th, but I believe he's going to find himself, 4 or 5 points behind Peterson going into the tricky triangle. As on the front straightaway, we mentioned about there's not a whole lot of room here. There's not a whole lot of room for burnouts either. Very constricted space here with that outside wall and the inside pit wall, but Daniel Nanny going to utilize all of that room as he's going to burn it down, and in just a little bit he'll be able to kiss the yard of bricks right there on the start-finish line. One of the favorite post-race traditions for drivers here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, gotten plenty of practice here. Celebrating lately. Yeah, it's a great opportunity to work on the burnouts when every week you get an opportunity to do so. So we'll see if we can grab our winner and see if he can chat with you here right now.
Yeah, Daniel, it's Ross and Seth up here in the split-second broadcasting booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, three-peat here in Season 11, Watkins Glen, Michigan, and now the historic venue, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You had a strong truck here today, had to rely on that long-run speed, but close of this race, you had the 71 breathing down your neck. What were you able to do inside this race truck to keep him at bay, and as we saw, be able to open up some distance there in these final couple of laps?
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty tight. I don't especially like tight setup, but yeah, it was pretty tight and dirty here, so I knew I had to save my tires if I wanted to get the lead before the green flag picked up. But yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. I mean, we had a fast race truck. It was interesting to say at least. I'm glad to see it go green there at the end, especially after those first couple of cautions. I think there were like 2 or 3 cautions that wasn't exactly fun, but the fact that we got a green flag run in, 2 green flag runs in with a green flag pit stop, that was a lot of fun. And yeah, near the end of that race, I was a little worried that the 71 was going to catch me, but thankfully clean air proved to be necessary to keep the lead, and I managed to pull away.
You know, you mentioned just prior to that final pit stop the word save. It didn't look like either of you two were saving anything in that final run to the checkers, letting the back end hang out off the corner. Might have brushed the outside wall on occasion with that right rear quarter panel, but man, using every bit of what this truck would allow you. What was the defense opportunity there if the 71 got to your back bumper? Did you have enough left in this race truck to keep him at bay, or do you think if he'd gotten around you, the clean air was going to be key?
If he would have gotten a run on me and gotten around me, he would have been able to pull away, because once you get behind somebody, you just plow tight going into the corners. So I had to play it smart when I was behind him before the green flag pit stopped. I had to back up my corners so I can get a run off the corners. And thankfully, he burned his stuff up, and I managed to get around him and put a little bit of a gap before we came down pit road. But yeah, I'm just glad that I was able to come off pit road perfectly and not make any mistakes in the final run. And you said it, I hit the wall a couple of times, but thankfully he also hit the wall following me, so it didn't really hurt me that much, and we managed to come away with the win.
Incredible to be able to pull off a three-peat, but maybe more incredible to do it at 3 entirely different tracks. Road course, completely an entity in and of itself. 2 big racetracks, but they're completely different. You got the high banks of the 2-mile speedway at Michigan. You've got the more confined lower bank corners of the longer 2.5-mile racetrack at Indianapolis. To be able to win 3 in a row, but to be able to diversify here at 3 different racetracks, What does that do as far as the confidence for you as a driver to be able to pull off an incredible feat like this?
I've been practicing a lot. I mean, I'm almost back to 7,000 hours, and so I've been racing a lot, whether it's officials or any other league racing, like College Series. I was in the top 25 in last semester's College Series championship race. So, I mean, I've just been putting in a lot of time and effort. I won a College Series league championship not too long ago. I mean, I go to Ball State University, so I mean, Indianapolis is kind of a home track for me. So I knew I had to be good here, and Michigan is also that's my home state. So winning back to back at two tracks that I consider a home track, pretty special, and I feel pretty proud of myself.
Well, there you go. The time, the effort definitely paying off. Your third trip to victory lane in the last 3 weeks. You're going to be getting to kiss the yard of bricks here in just a few moments. But before we let you go, Daniel, for the rest of your celebration, floor is yours for victory lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Shout out the entire lead and the broadcast booth for putting on an amazing broadcast. I love going back and rewatching these races. They're a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, I have to shout out Local Performance for being on the truck, and they are supporting me throughout all the leads I've done, all the races I do. So they made me the driver that I am today. So if anybody's looking to become a better driver, don't join the Local Performance Discord, and don't hesitate to reach out to me. And yeah, that's about it.
Daniel Nanny, three-peat here in Season 11 of the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series as he takes the Gainbridge 200 here tonight at the Brickyard. Congratulations on a job well done. Tremendous feat here this evening.
Thank you guys so much.
See if we can now dial up the driver that brings home the second position. Ross, I think you've got our new points leader.
Ooh. Yeah, Christian Peterson, you got a copy? It sounds like you do.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, points leader after tonight's run, 3 straight top 5s now the last few weeks here in the Great Lakes Truck Series. Just a little bit short once again tonight. What did you need, at least on those last 2 runs, to contend with that 30 truck?
Yeah, a little bit short of 3 straight wins, but no, hats off to Daniel. He's done a hell of a job. But yeah, I don't know. I tried to save my right front there, the last one, for a few laps. And then, I don't know, he kind of was coming back to me for a minute there, and he started, I don't know, whatever, just, in my opinion, he was choking, and then he stopped, so. But he hit the wall a few times, I was gaining a little bit, and then he did a hell of a job rebounding, and I just couldn't keep up with him. I think he was just taking a little bit bigger arc, and I couldn't quite get that to work for how I wanted to drive the truck, so I was burning the right front off a little bit more than he was, but still a good day, P2. Not sure how much the points lead means when we get to the playoffs, but I think it might, if you win it, I don't know if it gets you a few points or whatnot, but it always feels good to be consistent and be good everywhere we go.
For sure. The racing tonight, it seemed like you guys, there was multiple times we just talked to Daniel about it, of you guys just right on the edge, even getting into the wall a little bit on those last green flag runs a couple times, and then early on in the race, the restarts, everybody packed together, kind of the games, maybe not games, but just the back and forth on restarts. The intensity here at Indianapolis, is it something that we're seeing on the broadcast? Is it the same behind the wheel?
Oh yeah, I mean, even when it gets spread out there in the green flag run, and we're running car lengths or car truck or whatever trucks apart. I mean, I'm sweating there trying to chase down Daniel. I mean, like, we're on the edge of plowing into the wall or hitting the curb and spinning out or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? And having a mistake. So everybody who's like right there on the edge, it's like hats off to those guys, because it takes good concentration to run solid fast laps at this place, and yeah, like for that reason, it's one of my favorite tracks. You know what I mean? It might get a little boring there at the end, but it's for a viewer standpoint. But as a driver, it's probably one of my favorite tracks to race at. So
we appreciate the the battle up front and keeping Daniel honest there in the end, and a great battle. It was awesome. Yeah, it was awesome to watch you guys hanging out at the end there and try to get him, but hopefully have a chance to get back to victory lane here in the next couple weeks. But we'll wrap it up by giving you a chance to shout out anyone that you want to and thank anybody that you need to thank.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get back into victory lane and knock Daniel off his throne there for a little bit. But just gotta thank everybody, Manji Motorsports, all you guys at GLR, Great Lakes that put on the show and give us a place to race. So thank you guys.
For sure, Christian Peterson, second place tonight.
And let's see if we can get a hold of our third place finisher here this evening, Tony Manji. Tony, it's the guys up here in the Split Second Broadcasting booth. You got us?
Absolutely. How you guys doing tonight?
Man, I tell you what, you said last week you really liked having the stretch of the bigger racetracks. The runner-up finished last week at Michigan. Third place here this evening, back-to-back podiums, and maybe a little bit more importantly than anything, you build a little bit of a cushion now between yourself and that 10th in the standings cut line. You were the cut line driver coming into tonight. Had an opportunity here to maybe make it a 3-truck battle for this race victory. What little more do you need to be able to get up to those guys? Because it seemed like after the green flag pit stop cycle was completed, you just started to lose a little bit of ground to them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like if I could have gotten clean air a little bit earlier on in the race, about when my teammate Christian Peterson got the lead, if that could have been me instead, maybe I could have been up there a little bit. It just felt like in traffic, I just couldn't get the truck to turn well enough. So we kind of got mired back there in a little bit of traffic, and then that just kind of made everything worse. But yeah, those two were very, very quick tonight. Can't take anything away from those. Daniel and Christian, man, those two were very, very fast, very stout. So it was pretty awesome to be able to be within, I guess, arm's length, I guess you'd say, of them.
We knew it was going to be pretty much coming down to that final pit stop if this race finished under green. One thing that kind of surprised Ross and myself was a lot of our front runners, maybe there were a couple of exceptions that came to pit road one lap prior than everybody else, but most of the leaders all came to pit road together. We didn't see a wide window, a wide varying range of strategies there of drivers potentially trying the undercut. Was that an option that you maybe weighed at some point there, see if maybe you could leapfrog some of the guys in front of you, or did you have a set number and pretty much stuck to it and just found out most of the other drivers around you had that same number in mind?
Yeah, you know, obviously I only knew what my number was, to be totally honest, but I knew that if I stayed out for an entire fuel run and then pitted, you know, one more time, it would get us right to the end and maybe a lap to spare. But if we had gotten a caution there at the end and had a green-white checkered, things would have been pretty dicey because we probably would have had to pit for fuel. So I'm pretty sure everybody around me was in a similar position. I know Zach Henry pitted a lap sooner, I believe, to leapfrog me. So he might have been even worse off in that scenario. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the window was just so slim for us leaders that we all just kind of said, hey, we all just got to pit at the same time and do this. And I maybe, you know, the only difference I could have made there was maybe stayed out one lap later, but I would have felt like I'd have lost too much time even more anyway. So I just kind of wanted to take my third place and move on to Pocono.
Second last week at Michigan, third here tonight at Indy. As you mentioned, Pocono on the horizon. Confidence got to be pretty high here to maybe have this 24 in victory lane by the time we are talking at the post race next week in the Pocono Mountains at the Tricky Triangle, huh?
That would be great. Last year we had a good run brewing. Me and my teammates unfortunately got taken out of that one. So, you know, we're still searching for that first GLR win overall. That's a stat that definitely bugs me. I'm ready to break through and get to victory lane in this awesome league that everybody puts on.
Great run here tonight. Back-to-back finishes on the podium, continuing to work your way up through the point standings as a result. Congratulations on the great run here tonight at Indianapolis. Tony, before we let you go, we'll give you the opportunity here for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah, thank you so much. I got to thank Best Overhead Doors, of course, Manji Motorsports, my two teammates, Christian Peterson and Jared Duda. Couldn't do what I do without them. So thank you guys for putting on an awesome broadcast, as always. And I got to thank Great Lakes Racing League for an awesome league.
Tony Manji brings home third place here tonight in the Gainbridge 200 at the Brickyard. Congratulations on the great run. Best of luck as you look to continue this momentum into another longer 2.5 mile racetrack next week at Pocono.
Thank you so much, guys.
So that's our top three finishers here tonight, and Well, we saw kind of the tale of two races here, Ross. The early aggression, the multiple yellows there, first half of this race. It then spread out. We end up seeing pit road play its factor. But after all is said and done, you look at your top 12 in the point standings, and every position except one changed hands.
A little bit of a mix-up when you have a couple, the big names we saw. Jump have his issues. Some of these drivers that we saw Weeks had to work back from his early strategy play and trying something a little different, but unfortunately loses him some ground in the standings. But and then you got a guy like Peterson who's able to contend for the win tonight, but in the end just come up one spot short and score a ton of points to grab the points lead. So a little bit of a mix-up between all of our front runners, but that's why we like it. We like to see the ever-changing landscape that is the Great Lakes Truck Series.
Take a look at our full fidget results from the evening as Daniel Nanny now 3 wins in a row, taking the checkered flag here tonight. Christian Peterson led the most laps, 42 circuits out in clean air, brings home with a solid second, and will take the points lead into Pocono. Tony Manji back-to-back podiums in third. Zachary Henry continuing to top 5 the field to death as he leapfrogged with an alternative strategy. 1 lap earlier on pit road, brings home in fourth. And John Barry gets not only his first top 5, but his first finish inside the top 15 here this season. Matthew Weeks comes back to finish in the 6th position with Elliot Henderson, 3-time winner, in 7th. Hunter Madalinas, good solid day here for him after the hard luck he's had the last couple of weeks in 8th. Shane Nicewong, another solid top 10 run in 9th. And Ashton Lawson going to get the final spot in the top 10.
I look back from 11th on to 20th, and I'm like, the amount of times we saw these drivers, swapping back and forth on those last couple runs between Jared Darling in 11th, Hunter Brittle 12th. Those guys slowly trying to get their way back up into the top 10, came up just a couple spots short, but we saw Jackson Sims in a lot of great battles. Matt Durr, Michael Senzi, you talked about him running a little bit longer there, or at least a lap or two longer, and was able to work his way back up at least to 15th. Justin Mons in 16th. Brent Kingcott in 17th. We talked about Eric Kepf tonight. Maybe wanting a little bit of a better run, but in the end comes home 18th and crosses the 20,000 laps run here in the Great Lakes Truck Series. 19th, Nicholas Kressel, and 20th, Spencer Owens after that speeding penalty on that last green flag pit stop.
Number of drivers here this evening just trying to survive. Rod Fastno going to bring it home in the 21st spot with Aiden DuPont behind him in 22nd. Evan Snyder in 3rd and Robin Durr in 24th. Those were the last drivers to finish on the lead lap. We saw Gavin Fitzgerald with an unscheduled pit stop, finish his first truck 1 lap down in 25th. Also a lap down was James Shiflett. Will Barbagelata, after early issues, he drops to 27th place here in the finishing results. Nathan Jump, who started on the pole, going to finish underpowered but in the 28th spot. And then 2 drivers did not reach the conclusion, Blair Neabone and Jared Duda, going to finish out our 30 truck field here tonight. Look at the point standings going into next week, and it's going to still be close, but there's a new driver at the top of the point standings. Christian Peterson going to have 5 points in hand over Matthew Weeks. Zachary Henry 19 points back with Elliot Henderson and Shane Niceswanger. That's going to be the top 5. We saw a race of strategy last week. We saw another one here this week. Expect the same on the horizon next week as drivers will try to tackle the tricky triangle in the Pocono Mountains. Pocono Raceway next on tap for these drivers. Thank you all for tuning into our coverage here tonight in the Gainbridge 200 at the Brickyard. We'll see you guys next Tuesday night as we continue on the 11th season of the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series. For myself, Seth Cole, Ross Brockman, our producer, Jeff Johnson, we wish you a good evening. We'll see you guys next Tuesday night here on Split Second Broadcasting.